Welcome to Deja View, where we're flashing back over 17 years of programming on the school channel. I'm your host and resident old guy, Gary Kramer, and with me are Diane Stowe.
Hello.
And Amy Marsh.
Hi.
And we're united again. Congratulations, girls. You did a good job last week in my absence. I was doing my civic duty, jury duty. What an adventure. And it was so interesting because I've lived forever, and this is the first time I've been called to be on jury duty, and guess who was there with me in the jury pool? Sarah Gibson from Good Company. Just turned 18, bang. She gets summoned for jury duty too. And we both got seated on jury, so it was a lesson in civic responsibility for the two of us. So if any of you ever receive the summons for jury duty, don't let it scare you. The only thing you have to remember is take a book, because there are long periods of waiting while you're sitting at the courthouse, hoping that you'll get called for a jury. But now I'm back with that experience behind me. I feel so much more civically responsible, and that's good because this week's show is kind of about civic responsibility and social studies, because it's all about a program that we had on the school channel almost a decade ago now, The Adventures of Dr. Doolittle. Now, Dr. Doolittle, that's his real name. He was the coordinator of social studies for the Norman Public Schools, and while he was in that role, he worked with us here at the school channel to provide some really interesting programming for the school channel, dealing with some social studies topics and the history of the community and some things that students were studying. He's also a very interesting man in his own right. Lots of interests that he brought into the show. He produced the show along with Byron Baker and Ben Long, whom we have talked about a lot on Deja View, and you'll see evidence of their work as we explore the short-lived series on the school channel, The Adventures of Dr. Doolittle.
Dr. Doolittle made learning fun in 1989 by producing a television show for Channel 29 that highlighted social studies events at schools around town and teaching everyone that fun can be found in education.
November 3rd, 1989. Gary Grass, geography teacher, asked me to come watch a video he produced this fall. Gary attended a workshop in Washington, D.C., sponsored by the National Geographic Society, and brought back many great ideas like this video.
Oklahoma is located in the central part of the United States. Norman is part of a large metropolitan community that is south of Oklahoma City. Here's our city. 35 degrees north latitude, 97 degrees west longitude.
And I teach 7th grade geography at Longfellow Middle School. This is the area that I teach in at Longfellow. You're going to be seeing a video today about the 5 themes of geography and how that relates with our community and our school, seen through the eyes of my middle school students. I hope you enjoy this video as much as we've enjoyed making it. I'd like you to join me now to meet our principal here at Longfellow Middle School in Norman, Oklahoma, Mrs. Tina Nations.
Great. I'd like to welcome our viewing audience to Longfellow Middle School. It's one of 3 middle schools here in Norman, and it's, in our opinion, the very best.
I hope it is.
A great place to be, and I'm glad that we're able to share it with the video audience.
Tina, what is your general overview of Longfellow? Maybe some comments on staff, how many staff members we have, student body, some of the classes that we offer here at Longfellow, some comments maybe along those lines.
We have 804 students enrolled at this time, and we have 49 staff members. We have 3 administrators, a principal and 2 assistant principals. We have 3 counselors. We have 3 grade level here, 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, and each counselor, one is a 6th grade counselor, 1 7th, 1 8th. We are located on the north side of Norman, and there are other 2 middle schools. One is on the south side, and one is on the east side of Norman.
This is how Norman looks today. The early settlers and pioneers would be surprised at the changes we've had in the last 100 years. Was Indian territory, then cattle trails and cowboys. The railroad came, and so did the desire to make a home in Oklahoma. The first land run of '89 opened Indian territories, unassigned lands to thousands of settlers. The Sooners claimed land early. The Boomers claimed their land the day of the run, April 22, 1889. Norman got its start overnight thanks to the land run. From tents to brick buildings, Norman over the years grew quickly. Even today, the early pioneer spirit and Indian heritage still affect the way we live. Our location helped Norman become the university town. In 1890, the territorial legislature chartered the University of Oklahoma. OU has been an important influence on our community ever since.
that was a look at one of the segments from The Adventures of Dr. Doolittle, one of the shows that once and never again shows on the school channel, and that's what we're looking at this week and in future shows. As I mentioned, Dr. Doolittle was the director of social studies for the Norman Public Schools, but prior to that, he was the social studies teacher at Longfellow, so he had some special ties with the students at Longfellow. And it's really special, I think, for us to see what that school looked like in 1989 because it's already gone. The present Longfellow students have moved into the new part of the building that will be Norman High School North, and so that open area that you saw there and all of those classrooms that once were at Longfellow are being gutted as we speak. So the historical significance of the Adventures of Dr. Doolittle is gaining some weight as the school system changes. And you also got to look at what the Norman community looked like in 1989, and there have been some serious changes there as well. It's all part of history, it's all part of social studies, and it's all part of what we explored on The Adventures of Dr. Doolittle.
The Adventures of Dr. Doolittle paid special attention to the creative outdoor projects that the Norman students participated in and documented them in his own special way on the school channel.
Students while they explored the park in small groups led by parent volunteers. The children found evidence of animal life as well as the impact of man. Several groups settled down on the shores of a lake to discuss their experiences and to write an essay for social studies. Students seem to really learn from experiences outside of the classroom. Whittier's 6th grade teachers, Kathy Grebb and Corrine Nelson, were starting an archaeology unit with their classes and asked me to drop in and give their students some pointers. Whoa! We've only had writing for about the last 10,000 years. Now that seems like a long time to all of you. When you get to be my age, it doesn't seem quite so long. How many years have human beings been around, do scientists estimate? Take a guess. Somebody make a wild guess. 1 million years? 200 million? That's too many. 1 million years is what we're looking for. I tried to make it clear to students that archaeology was far more than digging up objects from the ground. There's an argument going on. They haven't settled it yet. But let's just round it off and say 1 million. 10,000 years out of 1 million, if I drew a line and said this line represents 1 million years, how much of it would be 10,000 years?
About an inch.
Yeah, that's right. About an inch, right down here. This is written past. This is non-written. Who studies the written past? Historians. Who studies the non-written past?
Archaeologists.
Archaeologists, right. There's way more written documents than there are non-written stuff. Students got a hands-on demonstration of the difficulties of analyzing unusual artifacts from long-dead cultures. Well, we're going to talk about archaeology today. They also discovered that archaeologists painstakingly excavate their sites recording the most minute data in an effort to reconstruct as precisely as possible the patterns of behavior of our ancestors. On September 26, 1989, I went to Adams Elementary to help them celebrate the birthday of John Chapman, better known as Johnny Appleseed. Students all through the school had been well prepared on the amazing life of this extraordinary man. I was delighted to help librarian Linda Cowan read the story of John Chapman's life to kindergarten students. My early 19th century costume fascinated the children, and they asked question after question about life in the early 1800s. They were intrigued as I explained how to save their apple seeds and to plant them, much as Johnny Appleseed had. They also recognized the difference between the actual facts of John Chapman's life and the exaggerations that had become a part of the Johnny Appleseed legend. Later on, I visited several classrooms and answered many thoughtful questions about the life of John Chapman and other early pioneers. What do you think they grow? Trees. And how do we get trees to grow? We get seeds, that's right. Inside of every apple, there's 5 or 6 little seeds. So today, when you take your apple home and eat it, don't throw away the core. Instead, open the core up to find the seeds that are inside of it. And then talk to your mom and dad about taking them outside and finding a special place in your backyard or your front yard and planting your apple seeds. Now, not every apple seed grows into a tree. So you'll have to be very careful with it and very patient. They won't always grow into a tree. But if you plant your apple seed today, maybe you'll be one of the lucky boys and girls that have an apple tree grow from that seed. Will you do that for me? I'm going to let Mrs. Cowan read you the story that she's got today about me. Let's see what happens.
This is one of our favorite authors and illustrators. It's Stephen Kellogg, and today's book is called Johnny Appleseed, A Tall Tale. John Chapman, who later became known as Johnny Appleseed, was born on September 26, 1774, when the apples on the trees surrounding his home were as red as autumn leaves. John's first years were hard. His father left the family to fight in the Revolutionary War, and his mother and his baby brother died before John was 2 years old. By the time John was 6, his father had remarried and settled in Longmeadow, Massachusetts. Within 10 years, their little house was overflowing with 10 more children. Nearby was an apple orchard. Like most families, the Chapmans picked their apples in the fall and stored them in the cellar for winter eating and used them to make sauces, cider, vinegar, and apple butter. John loved to watch the spring blossoms slowly turn into the glowing fruit of autumn.
Watching the apples grow inspired John in a love of all of nature. He often escaped from his boisterous household to the tranquil, quiet woods. The animals sensed his gentleness and trusted him. As soon as John was old enough to leave home, he set out to explore the wilderness to the west. When he reached the Allegheny Mountains, he cleared a plot of land and planted a small orchard with the pouch of apple seeds he carried with him. John walked hundreds of miles through the Pennsylvania forest, living like the Indians he befriended on the trail. As he traveled, he cleared the land for many more orchards. He was sure the pioneer families would be arriving before long, and he looked forward.
That was another example of an episode from The Adventures of Dr. Doolittle, and as I mentioned, Dr. Graydon Doolittle, and it was his real name, and he really did talk like Dudley Do-Right, was the director of social studies for the school system. And not to put down any directors that we might have now, but he was probably the most actively involved curriculum director of anyone we've ever had, because he spent a lot of time in the schools. As you notice there, he had some personas that he would acquire. He became characters. He would be Abraham Lincoln.
I remember him coming to school as Abraham Lincoln.
And he would dress up like Honest
Abe. He
Abe.
looked just like him.
He was about 7 feet tall. Yeah. And he would be Mountain Man, and he'd come and talk about the pioneers, and he would help them put up teepees on campus and do some stuff like that. So he was all over the place, and he was very comfortable in the classroom because he was a teacher for so long at a middle school. So he took advantage of the freedom of his schedule as a curriculum director to go all over the district and work with social studies teachers and work with classroom teachers to bring social studies to life for the students all over town. Whether he was Abraham Lincoln or Mountain Man or Dr. Doolittle talking to the animals, he was there to teach us social studies. And then he also spent a lot of his time here at the studio sharing his interests and expertise with the entire community on the adventures of Dr. Doolittle.
Dr. Doolittle found something entertaining in social studies that he shared with students across Norman, not only on the school channel, but in the classroom as well. He spent a lot of time visiting schools and sharing with the whole community.
History of their school through the archaeological efforts of their students. Carol Upchurch and Margaret Milliken received a grant from the Norman Public Schools Foundation to make an archaeological expedition a yearly part of their curriculum. With the help of the Oklahoma Archaeological Survey, they plan to systematically recover archaeological artifacts from the grounds of the school. These artifacts reveal much about the way of life of students, teachers, and patrons of Jefferson School in times gone by. Students were taught appropriate procedures for recovering artifacts in the field. They carefully scraped back the soil in 10-centimeter layers, recording the positions of items as they discovered them, and placing them in bags marked for the level. Students also put all dirt removed from the level through a screen to recover smaller objects. Several people from the Oklahoma Archaeological Survey were on hand to help students and to provide expert advice. All of the objects found were taken inside to an analysis team, where the objects were all cleaned and cataloged. Students discovered that the job of the archaeologist goes far beyond the excitement of discovery at the dig. Dr. Bob Brooks, state archaeologist, sponsored the dig and gave students information on how to conduct the dig as professionally as possible.
Now, we are really excited about that clip.
The funniest thing ever. Oh my
These guys
gosh.
were there when they did the archaeological dig at Jefferson.
Yes.
Tell me about
It
it.
was so fun. They took the playground and just divided up into little sections in each class, or like 4 of your friends. How many were?
It was like 4.
I
It was
think
like me
so.
and you and 2 boys, I think.
Yeah, I think they divided us up and we got to just dig in our little square, and they'd give you a sifting thing, and Amy and I remember standing on each side of it just shaking it, trying to get something to come out the bottom.
Now, the Archaeological Society will do this at any school, but they fake it. You know, and they actually put stuff in there for you to
Yeah.
find. But at Jefferson, you were doing a real dig
Yeah,
because
yeah.
Jefferson has the longest history of any site here in the school system. It was the site of the first school, the East Side School here in Norman, in like 1889 or something, 94, I guess it was, 1894. And so that year they were beginning a remodeling project at Jefferson. They're digging up the campus anyway. And so Dr. Doolittle and the teachers at Jefferson turned it into this huge archaeological
so
dig.
fun.
And they did it just like a real dig. I mean, layer by layer, sifting and dusting and finding stuff. Did you find anything?
I found a bottle, like a little, I don't know, almost a milk bottle, but it was teeny tiny.
It could have been a little teeny tiny milk bottle because you used to get your milk at school in little
Yeah.
bitty bottles. You know, that's for the cartons.
I think I found a brick, like a really old brick, and I don't know what happened to it, but I remember that I was so impressed that I found a brick. I was like,
That was such an interesting school. In fact, Dr. Doolittle on another show went into the Jefferson basement. They had this underground tunnel thing under the school.
remember
and I
that
don't think
too.
it's there anymore. So it was interesting to see what Jefferson was like then and Jefferson now. And it was good to see some people that are on campus now who were part of that project on the adventures of Dr. Doolittle. Be sure to join us next week as we continue to revive programs that are no longer on the school channel. And next week we'll be doing some small talk and look at some programming we did for elementary educators. So join us then. For Amy Marsh and Diane Stowe and Dr. Graydon Doolittle, I'm Gary Kramer. Thanks for watching.